And welcome back, everybody, to the BaseLINE podcast. I am your host, Ben Line Newman. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. We have a very special guest. Now, I have known this woman for a few years now. She is from Marshall, Michigan, where my family grew up. And she just is wrapping up her career at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University down in Daytona Beach area in Florida. So with that being said, here's my special guest, Miss Nikki Tucker.
Hi, guys.
How you doing today?
Good. I'm so glad to be
Good.
here. It's super fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Now, like I said, you just wrapped up your senior season at Embry-Riddle, and you finished your season with breaking some records, didn't you?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Now, you finished with as the leading scorer in Embry-Riddle's women's program, as well as the all-time leading rebounder. Now, was this ever a goal that you imagined achieving in your career?
No, not particularly. I knew it was a new program, but as an athlete who was raised by athletes, you kind of realize you have to earn your time. And so that's the kind of the mindset that I came into college having, is that you kind of have to earn that time. So the goal wasn't necessarily that. Not to say that I wasn't super excited when I found out I was on pace for that, but I not initially, no.
Obviously, breaking a record like this, all-time leading scorer, all-time rebounder in the entire program, how much time and effort did you put in to achieve that goal?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort. It takes like a lot of mindset shifts and time management too. Kind of just priorities, like social life kind of takes a back seat when that becomes, I guess, a main goal. I kind of came into a program that was on its way up when I did. So my freshman year, we had a lot of seniors, kind of like a old person heavy team. So we had a lot of experience, and to kind of come on and play on that team where the idea was to win at all costs because it was their last year, that kind of formed my mindset towards more basketball in school and took away a little bit of the social aspect, which allowed me to develop that like work ethic around basketball, which really helped in the coming years. Even after those seniors left, they kind of just paved the way for that mindset for me, and it kind of stuck. So
Right. Now, I mean, speaking of that, like you said, a very senior heavy team when you came into freshman year. And if I'm correct, your freshman year, you guys did make it to the Division II March Madness bracket, correct?
yeah, we did. Yep.
Now, how different is playing in the regular season compared to a stage like March Madness?
Um, I would like to say our conference prepares us very well. I would like to say it's a lot different, but honestly, it's not. Our conference sends 3 to 4 teams every year to the regional tournament. So actually, the first team we met, we had played them for the 4th time because we played them twice in conference, once in the conference semifinals of the tournament, and then finally at that first round in the regional tournament. So it wasn't a lot different for us, just because we simply we had seen all those teams before. And we were kind of prepared, but it's definitely more exhilarating, warming up in a gym where, this could be your last game, and just, that pressure, but also that anxiousness you have to play. That's a little different.
Definitely. Now, I'm not exactly sure how heavily you were recruited in high school. Obviously, you were an amazing player at Marshall High School, but what made you pick Embry-Riddle over potentially other schools?
I think at the time, for the most part, for me, I was initially a criminal justice / homeland security interest as like a major. So it came down to a couple schools. I knew that kind of at the end of my recruiting, Division II was going to be like my max for me, and it was going to be that push. That was going to be a level that challenged me for playing time. It challenged me as a player, put me at that level where I could compete but still learn and grow in the game. So Division II, I kind of settled on that. And then afterwards, once I decided that, it was kind of down to the major, because I knew that I wanted to get a degree and then go work after. Overseas and professional wasn't really my goal. And so when it came down to it, Embry-Riddle had a homeland security degree. It was kind of in Florida. It was in Florida. It was kind of like all of these good elements put together. I love the program. Our core values are trust, family, and respect. So for me, that's a huge aspect that, those are our core values. I love the girls. I loved the program. The campus was beautiful. So it all just kind of came together. And when I was a senior in high school, Florida sounded like a really fun idea when you live in Michigan. So that's what kind of sold me.
I'm sure. And it looks like you're enjoying the nice Florida weather today, aren't you?
Yes, yes, I am. It's nice and 74 out. It's been
Oh,
raining all week, so you caught us on a good day.
oh, there you go. I mean, it's a little warmer here today. It's 50, but it's been still been cold. The usual Michigan weather in the
Yes,
winter.
yep.
Now, I mean, this season, Embry-Riddle was able to host Grand Valley State University. What was it like playing a team that I'm sure growing up you were fairly familiar with? Obviously, um, Marshall being about 40 minutes away from where Grand Valley is, but I'm sure a school that you were fairly familiar with growing up.
It was really cool. Actually, it was one of the things I told my coach at the beginning was like, I really want to play in a Michigan tournament or like a Michigan team, just, get back. I know some of the girls currently on Grand Valley's team, and they're having a spectacular season. I love Coach Williams. I think he's a great person, a great coach altogether. They have a great program. They always have. And so it was really fun being able to play against them. Um, and just kind of seeing girls that I'd played AAU against and like being familiar with Coach Williams. It was a great game altogether. And I was really excited when we did get to play them. So I know they're currently still playing in the regional tournament. So good luck to them. And, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of my other jobs is I work at Wood TVA, and I was able to shoot one of their games this season, and I just thought it was, they play incredible basketball.
Yeah, impeccable fundamentals, just have a lot of good girls, a lot of good pieces, and they put it together well, which, I mean, knowing Coach Williams is just something that he does. He takes the pieces that he has and he puts them together well. So,
Now, we mentioned it briefly, but obviously you grew up in Marshall, Michigan, went to Marshall High School. Marshall about 40 minutes away from Kalamazoo, about an hour and a half per se to Grand Rapids where we're located. With all the success that you've had, that you've made for yourself in your career, what is it like to be able to represent Marshall as a town, as well as just the entire state of Grand Rapids, or at least the southwest to West Michigan area?
I think it's really nice that you actually attribute that to me because I've never really thought about it in that way, but I appreciate that's the way that you're wording it. It feels good. I know specifically for me, Marshall being more of a women's basketball program in town, Sal Conkle obviously built that program ground up. She's a great coach. And then now Lance Hoblis is doing a great job with girls program there now. But I think just being an inspiration to young girls that play sports, regardless of whether it be basketball, track, softball, soccer, whatever that they do, just kind of encouraging women to stay in sports. I think that's the main aspect is I hope that they attribute that aspect of me with what they want to do in their future. I hope that they look at it and think, okay, I can do that. And if it doesn't have to be in Michigan, it doesn't have to be here, there, it doesn't have to be Division One. You can have success at any level in any sport if you stick to it. And I hope that work ethic and that example that I've set kind of carries over for girls in Michigan and girls anywhere that have followed me in the sport. So
Absolutely. Now, as well as you playing basketball, you also have two siblings, Natalie Tucker, who's currently playing at Siena Heights, and your brother Nate, who is currently playing at Marshall High School. And both have been successful in basketball. All three of you really have been successful at basketball. What do you think made you guys such a big basketball family?
Well, my dad played at Siena Heights, actually, where my sister currently plays. And he played throughout college, and he's just been a basketball junkie our entire lives. I have an older cousin, Jake Brubaker, as well. He played at Cornerstone when they made a national tournament run in 2017. So it kind of just carried over. I think listening to my dad be so involved in basketball, just kind of having it throughout the house. And then when we were younger and started to get into sports, having him push that a little bit, just for us to try it. And we all ended up kind of just loving it. And it just became something we did together on the weekends and something we watched together as a family. And so when you're always around it and exposed to it, and then on top of that, getting that influence from Sal Conkle, who had a daughter my age, Jill, who played at Hope for a couple years. She wanted to start a team. And so that kind of all coming together at like the right ages just carried over all throughout high school and into college too. So it was a good influence from the community as well as a family thing that kind of pushed us towards that. So.
Right. I mean, I remember going to your house for your senior high school open house, and you have that nice little basketball court by the water. really definitely a really nice place to practice. I'm sure sometimes you might have lost a ball in the lake, but
Yeah, just a few times, and we took turns jumping in. So
there you go. Now, obviously, I'm sure it's a little bit more difficult for you guys now. Obviously, you're in Florida. Siena Heights is, closer to the east side of the state. Nate's in high school, but growing up, how would you guys practice together? Whether that be through pickup drills, etc. Something. How'd you guys train together growing up?
So actually, it's really funny. My cousin Jake, he is a year older than I am. So he also, I mentioned earlier, did play basketball. So whenever we would hang out at my grandma's house on the weekends, which we often did, so parents could have their date night, we would play basketball together. So it was always my younger brother and my older cousin, who at the time my brother was 5 years younger than me. So it's more like Jake versus Natalie and I, which is how it ended up being. And we would just play for hours and hours and hours. And every time, I don't think Natalie and I probably didn't win one game. I think Jake beat us single-handedly. Nate maybe had 2 points every time, just helping out where he could. But I think mostly just those games. We would play pig all the time, work on our shot together. It was mostly just games that ended up being super fun that kind of just, turned over. We would play for hours. I remember there was one time Natalie and I had gotten so mad because they had beaten us maybe 4 times. And Natalie was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. We keep getting beat. I'm done. And so Jake had said, so we're quitting now. We're going to quit. And so then obviously, as the competitive women that we are, we can't. So we ended up playing for another probably 2 hours. And my grandma will tell you those stories over and over again about how we just had stayed in her backyard for hours playing. And it's kind of one of those things that stuck. And technically you can call it practice, but as kids, we just called it fun.
Right. And I'm sure that definitely helps drive your competitiveness playing in college as well, just always wanting to maybe up your opponent or just try and make sure that you can do anything possible to win that game or win that matchup.
Yes, exactly. It did. It carried over. You can ask my college coach. That competitiveness did carry over.
Now, obviously, you mentioned it earlier. Your father played basketball. You really have a basketball family. But what do you think made you fall in love with the sport of basketball?
Just the aspect, not only that it's competitive, but also like it's more of a team thing. I just really enjoy the team part of basketball. I like having girls around me that I have stuff in common with, that have a similar mindset and work ethic. And I really kind of realized this when I got to college, that placing yourself around like-minded people pushes you towards your goals. And I always just found it easier to attack the next thing when I had people around me that knew how to help when I didn't know how to help myself. And so I came addicted to that in high school, just having girls that had gone through it with me, that the pain, the struggle, the tears, but also the happiness and the fun and the exciting times. And so carrying that over into college, I definitely met lifelong friends. And so that's what sports has given me. And it'll continue to give me that. Because I think basketball is just a community that I really enjoy. As you can see now, I mean, there's girls that played in Michigan that came down and played in our conference. And even after games, we'll shake each other's hands. And no matter where you are in the country, you're going to find someone just because that basketball community is so strong. So like that team aspect and the connection to the community is really what drew me in and kept me there. So
definitely. I mean, you see in the NBA, basketball really isn't just a sport. It's kind of has its own culture. It kind of has its own lifestyle.
Yeah, completely. And once you're in it, you really understand it and just enjoy it. And I think that's one aspect that I'll always just enjoy, is just knowing people and surrounding myself with like-minded people. And that's what sports brings, I think.
Also, growing up, who were some of your favorite players to watch growing up, whether that be NBA or even WNBA?
Being a Midwest girl, I love Skylar Diggins. I love the Notre Dame. I just love her as a player. I think she has great court vision. I think overall she just competes. Same thing, Brianna Stewart. She played at UConn when they were on their giant, no loss run. And so I think just hearing her name all the time, she's one of my favorite players. I think she's crafty around the rim, and just reminds me of someone that plays with a lot of fight and but also like very calm and collected, which I admire in players. And then always grew up with my dad, so Michael Jordan has to be up there because he just, as a young kid, he always talked about Michael Jordan. So probably just those players I come to mind automatically.
Great, yeah. I know I watch a little bit of WNBA. even though she hasn't really played much in recent years, I've always loved Maya Moore
Love
or
Maya. Yep.
even someone like Elena Deladon. Like there's some really great talent in the WNBA right now, and which leads me to my next question. I mean, women's sports doesn't really get the same amount of viewership as male sports does, whether that be WNBA, Women's March Madness. I'd say probably the most viewed women's sport is probably Olympic gymnastics. Um, how important is it that women's sports gets more recognition in your eyes?
I think in the coming years, and you can see it with college women's basketball, just how competitive it's becoming. You're getting that excitement that viewers are looking for. But I think with women's sports, you have to really appreciate the fundamentals of the game. You really have to understand how to play the game that you're watching, specifically basketball. Like if we're just bringing it back to basketball, you really have to like understand screens and cutting and change of pace, and just to really appreciate I guess the creativity that these women have to get themselves open, to make plays, to stop other people on defense. And so I think that goes for every women's sport. And I think that as we're moving towards a more competitive, more athletic kind of style of play, specifically in basketball, I think it'll bring more viewership naturally. But I think the more that we talk about it and the more we get women involved, and make space for them in the sports world, the more likely women are to stay in sports. And I think that's incredibly important. So as a young woman who hopes to, foster that love of sports in young women as they come up, I hope that others do as well, so that our community can become bigger, because I think it's really important for women to be in sports.
Absolutely, and I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, the more that we talk about, the more viewership that it might get, or the more prevalent it might be in our media and our society. But for a league like, let's say, the WNBA, what do you think that they might need to do just to gain more viewership?
I think that's very subjective when it comes to the type of viewers you want. Like I said, when WNBA has fans, but the fans that they do have really appreciate the sport or support like a one team, and so I think maybe to make it as a collective, how do I say this, a more collective community, or to bring in those people that do enjoy like the athletic part of men's basketball. You have to potentially adjust some rules, make the game a little bit faster. But like I said, naturally, we are seeing females dunking like more often. If you follow overtime women's basketball, I mean, the amount of times they have a female dunking in a warm up is just ridiculous now, which is totally something that we haven't seen in past years. So I think naturally, as we incorporate more women that are more athletic, it'll just naturally progress. So I don't necessarily think they need to do anything now. I think encouraging more women to be in the sport specifically will bring more options of females that will be able to, bring that athletic aspect to the game, which I think viewers like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned dunking. The first player that always comes to my mind when I think of a woman dunking is Brittany Griner. I mean, but one of the tallest WNBA players we have today. I mean, great player, great shot blocker, and we've seen her dunk a few times, and I've always found that exciting. I mean, being in the sports industry, let's say, I mean, I've always been a fan of women's sports. Some of my favorite games that I've been able to cover, shoot, and what have you, have been women's games. Winston Bradley, Laisha Petrie was one of our star players, and now playing at Rutgers. So it's just really great to see.
Yeah, when you enjoy the sport and you know how basketball works and the fundamentals of it, I think it's really easy to appreciate, what these women bring to the sport.
Yeah, definitely. Now, finally, Nikki, last question. Obviously, this is your last season, your last year at Embry-Riddle. What is next for Nikki Tucker?
So actually in May, I will be attending the master's program for physician's assistant studies at Butler. So I'm super excited about that. My undergrad is in aerospace physiology, which is Embry-Riddle's fancy way of saying pre-med or like a biology degree. So hopefully after 2 years at Butler, I will be able to take my certification exam and be able to become a physician's assistant. So that's the plan as of right now. I'm super excited to be back in the Midwest. Indianapolis should be very fun. Excited to be at a bigger school, see what happens, and We'll see where it takes me, but I'm super excited.
Well, that's great. Go Dogs. I mean, that was actually when I was picking out colleges, that was actually my second choice behind Bradley was Butler.
Yeah, I love
So,
Butler. Super
I,
excited to be there in May.
yeah, I think you'll like it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and good luck at Butler.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And that's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to Nikki Tucker for joining us. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe, and please comment down below. My name is BaseLINE Newman. Thank you guys again so much for watching the BaseLINE podcast, and I'll see you guys next time.